Welcome to the first half of what I read in July. So far, I have read 10 books. 6 of them are romances. 3 of them are cozies. And the last one, I think it's literary fiction. I wasn't really sure. It didn't kind of have a happily ever after, and it meandered a lot in the middle, which is kind of what I call literary fiction. There's no real plot or anything else going on. So yeah, but you can let me know if you think it was something different. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, author of the Frosted Misfortunes Cozy Mystery Series starring my own little kitty cat, Lucky. On this channel, we talk all about mysteries, whether those are books, TV shows, or movies. So if this sounds like you or something you might be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. I post new videos every Tuesday. All right, so this is basically the order that I read these books in. And for the romances, I will tell you the heat level. I think that's very important to know. I don't know why anyone never includes that. But if you're not familiar with heat levels, it basically goes 1 through 5. 1 is nothing. 5 is like everything. So I have a video that goes more into like the exact definitions. I will leave a link to that in the cards and in the description below. So first book is The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, and I gave this book a 3. Now this has closed door sex, so there's nothing like racy or anything about it, but it had a super cute setup. It is a fake romance trope. However, it then morphed into more of like a long distance kind of romance, which was the main issue. But the main character gets stuck in an elevator with this super cute guy, and he is in town for a wedding that is actually to his ex-girlfriend marrying his best friend. But he's like trying to be cool with it, but he's kind of freaking out because he doesn't have a date. And she's like, I don't know why you would say yes. And she wants to help him out. And so she says yes to being his fake date only because he's so hot. And they have like a lot of chemistry. So it's a super cute beginning. And then the date goes really well. And then after that, he ends up staying in town longer to hang out because they get along so well. And then he ends up flying her down to LA. I think she's in San Francisco and he is in, I believe, LA. He's a pediatric surgeon. So then it becomes more of like a long distance romance kind of back and forth thing. So definitely cute. I would definitely recommend it. The next one is Kiss My Cupcake by Helena Hunting, and I gave this book a 3. And as far as heat level, I would say it's about a 3.5, maybe, possibly a 4. So this one is about a super wealthy girl who feels sorry for herself. I'm kind of making fun of her because her billionaire family who runs a ton of restaurants, she doesn't want them to take over her cupcake business because they might turn it into their own millionaire idea, right? Versus her idea. So she has a raunchy cupcake style, like it's like for bachelorette parties where all the cupcakes are shaped like male body parts or something for the most part, and there's like alcohol in them. And then next door is a male sports bar where they do axe throwing, and so the two of them are like in contention with each other because she feels like he's stealing her ideas. And then what ends up happening though is a third competitor moves in across the street who's even bigger and like has more popularity and stuff than they do. So they band together to try to help promote each other so they can steal customers from that third place. So that's basically the whole thing of the book. But it was cute and entertaining. The third book is Bad Kitty by Susan Harper. This is number 8 in the Granny Vigilante series, and I give this book a 5. I gave every single book in the Granny Vigilante series a 5. I love this series. It is so fun. And I don't think Susan Harper's a real person because I think it's like part of just a brand name for their company. It's like a husband and wife team that puts out a lot of these books. But this is my favorite one. I've tried reading the other ones. They're okay, but this is like by far the greatest. It's basically the whole premise of the series is there is a retired police officer and she's like 65, 70 or something. And she sounds like she's fragile and old based on the pictures of the covers, but she's like a total like fighting ninja, can like beat anybody up. She kills a ton of people like Dexter that she just feels are wrong. And so, yeah, she's basically like a granny vigilante, just like it says. So in this one, she goes undercover at a retirement center because Kitty, I know you're sad. You're like, oh, I think it's going to be a cute little kitty cat. it's just a woman named Kitty. So Kitty is being mean to people. That's why it's called Bad Kitty, that are at the retirement center that maybe don't have enough money, or they brought in at a different tier, which I don't know how that works, but I guess it's super unfair in the way it's done. So she wants to like write that and make that better. In the meantime, Ronnie, who is her roommate that she moved out on to go undercover, is solving a tattoo parlor mystery and murder mystery. And so honestly, I could get more into it, but unless you've read all the other books, this one really won't make sense. So I would say 100% you have to read this series in order. Usually some series are standalone. This is definitely not the case with this one. All right, so the next book is To Helvetica and Back by Paige Shelton, and this is number 1 in the Dangerous Type Mysteries. And I gave this book a 2.5, like 3. It's basically about a grandpa, grandfather, granddaughter team, and they are running his company, which is Rescued Word, where he repairs typewriters and he also restores old books for people. So she's carrying an antique typewriter, and some stranger, because I guess it's a town with a lot of tourists, so it could just be a tourist, is kind of creepy and comes into the store, and he's like, "Sell me the typewriter." And she's like, "It's not for sale. Get out." And so she calls the police, and then he ends up dead the next day behind the store. So they're trying to figure out what's so special about this typewriter. Who is he? What did he want? And stuff like that. So I probably won't continue this series, but it was a cute idea. The next one is The Right Swipe by Alisha Rai, and I gave this book a 4. It is number 1 in modern love. It is a romance, and as far as heat level, it's the same as the other one. It's about a 3.5, and there's plenty of sex scenes in there, and if that's kind of like what you were hoping for in a book. So it's definitely not like The Wedding Date where it's just closed door. She's like really great at the back and forth banter and the chemistry between the two characters. She's almost as good as Abby Jimenez, who is literally my favorite romance writer ever for contemporary. She's like, I don't even know what it is about those books. They're like crack. I cannot put those down until I read those to the end. But anyways, back to this book. This book was still good. It's about Rhiannon, who has a dating app, and she works at a dating app company, and then she gets fired from it because of her ex-boyfriend. But luckily, she has like a billionaire best friend who backs her to start and create her own dating app. So she has another dating app. Now, in the meantime, there is a third dating app. I know it's very confusing, and everyone wants to buy it. So this dating app just happens to be owned partially by her ex-hookup's aunt. I know, very confusing. But she hooked up with this one guy like 5 years ago. He was a professional NFL player, but because of all these head injuries, like he just quit, and he's like making a statement about it. So there's like this other weird side story going on about that. And so she is doing some publicity stuff. She runs into him, and they're trying to do a promotion of her app so it looks more appealing, so that then she's a better contender to buy the app from his aunt, which he actually partially owns. So it's a little confusing, like all the different relationships, but it was a good read. I actually really liked it, obviously, since I gave it a 4. The next one is Incense and Sensibility by Sonali Dev, and this is number 3 in the Rajas. Now, I have not read books number 1 and 2. It just happened to come up in my library queue first. I don't know why. So that's why I read it first. So basically, I gave this a 3, mostly because, and possibly like a 2, only because it took like forever for the romance to, I don't even think they meet until the 50% mark. So at first I was like, is this a women's fiction book? Like, is that what I'm reading? So you don't even know who's going to get together or what's happening. The whole first half of the book, first of all, it starts out like 50 miles, like 100 miles per hour, like super fast. He is shot, and he is a political candidate, and he's shot by these like racist white supremacists, and because he's Indian, and they're like, go home, and which I totally identified with. I was like, oh my gosh, I hear that like every day, all the time from, racist people. And so anyways, he is worried, and he's like having night sweats and night terrors, obviously like PTSD from being shot. And so the whole book, like first half, is just about his recovering, hanging out with his family, and they're talking about his campaign and everything. And in the meantime, he has this fake girlfriend, because I guess in his family, there's like a lot of pressure to like get a girlfriend and get married. And so because he has a steady girlfriend, his parents like back off on the whole dating thing, which allows him to work on his career. And also for her friend to work, his fake girlfriend to work on her career, and she gets to keep her trust fund, or I don't know, something like that. So works out well for them. In the meantime, we meet the love interest, and she's like in this family with this mom that's kind of like Angelina Jolie, right? So this woman has adopted her name is India, even though she's from Thailand. And then she's also adopted another child from Africa that she's named China. And then she's adopted a third. It sounds like they have a brother. I actually didn't really catch that. It was like, I was listening to the audiobook, but they don't really mention him, or I can't remember anything about him. He doesn't really show up in the story again. The first half of the story is basically just about her trying to get her mom to the doctor because she's sick and complaining about Eastern medicine versus Western medicine, even though her mom's only lived in the US. And then her sister is in love with this Korean actress who is still in the closet and in denial that she's gay. So that's like that's why I was like, is this a women's fiction now? Like, that's like pretty much the first half. And then they finally meet because India does yoga, and she like is trying to help him with breathing and meditation to like get him over his PTSD. And then we find out that they actually hooked up like 5 years ago. So like I guess it's like a second chance romance. Anyways, so that was that book. The next one is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. And this book I gave a 3 to, mostly because it didn't really have a happily ever after. And like the first part of the book, 30%, was awesome. And all of a sudden it like slowed down and nothing happened for the rest of the book until like the very last chapter. But basically it's a black girl working at a publishing company, and she's the only one with just a whole team of white people, right? So this other black girl gets hired, and she's like, oh, finally, somebody else. And so she's kind of nice to her at first, and then she gets these creepy notes where they're like, get out, leave now, like these like threatening notes. So then you're like, oh, am I reading a psychological thriller? I don't even know what I was reading. But yeah, so I mean, again, I don't want to judge it too harshly just because I'm not really sure what genre I was reading. Was I reading literary fiction? Was I reading a psychological thriller? I still don't know. So anyways, there was that book. The next one is The Royals Next Door by Karina Halle, and I got this on NetGalley. This is a romance. I gave this a 3. It has a heat level, just like the other book, probably like a 3.5. This one is about the royals that move into a small Canadian island, and then she is a school teacher that lives like in a little servant's cottage on like the big plantation where they want to move. So they have to build like a gate compound around it to keep the press and other people out. And so she ends up interacting with the bodyguard a lot. So they're a cute couple. The only problem I really had with this book was she all of a sudden reverts, like first she's like responsible, she's a school teacher, and she is taking care of her mom who has a mental illness, and all of a sudden she reverts back to like this junior high status where she's upset about her ex-boyfriend even though it's 5 years ago. And so this guard is like, she's like, let's go on a date to hear my ex-boyfriend play in his band. And he's like, why would we do that? And she's like, well, I just want to prove to him I'm okay. I'm like, it's been 5 years. I'm pretty sure he was already like, he made his decision like 5 years ago. So basically she finds that her ex-boyfriend was cheating on her at his bachelor party. And then instead of calling the caterer and calling the wedding hall reception and the flower person and everything and canceling it, instead she just does nothing. She was like, oh, I told his family like I'm not going to marry him, so it's their fault for not canceling stuff. No, it is your fault as an adult for not canceling all of those things. So I think that's what happened. That's what it makes it sound like. She's like, everyone thought I stood him up at the altar. You're supposed to call people if it's like because usually the bachelor party is like a few days before the wedding. It was her job to call guests and be like, hey, we're not having the wedding. So anyways, it was hard to feel sorry for that character as soon as I read that. And then plus he's like, he can't be with her, and it's not because of like a past burnt romance. It's because of some like past work thing. It like didn't make any sense. So yeah, it started out like it was going to be really cute, and then the whole barfing thing, like it starts with a huge barfing scene, it ends with a huge barfing. I don't even know how that's like a cute thing for a romance, but anyways. Yeah. And maybe it's only because I'm sensitive to bodily fluids. I don't like reading about barfing at all. All right. So the next book is The Edge of Lies by Debra Burroughs. And this is number 2.5 in the Paradise Valley Mysteries. So this was supposed to be a short story where we really get to learn about Evan. So basically the Paradise Valley Mysteries are about Emily and her ex-husband, Evan, is shot and killed. She doesn't know why. She finds out his name really wasn't Evan. So even though in each book she's solving a murder, she's also trying to figure out like who was Evan and how was he killed. So this book was supposed to give you all of these answers. And I gave this book a 1 because it gave you 0 answers. It was like the worst. Like all you learn is that he was an hour late for the wedding. You don't know why. And you don't know, he doesn't explain it. And then also at the same time, she finds a journal of his. And so she's talking about her old memories, which we already know, which are so incredibly boring. She's like, oh, I met these. It's like trying way too hard to show that she has like 4 best friends, like set up this Sex in the City kind of like camaraderie. She's like, we all went to cooking class and the cooking class was so great. She's going on and on about the cooking class like forever. And so finally you're done with that boring scene. And then she's like, okay, I'm going to read the journal. And the journal says, hey, I left these answers for you. There are no answers. Not only does she not read from the journal, she also like, there's some weird scenes where it's like I think in Evan's point of view, but nothing happens. Again, he's just like, oh, I got a phone call and I went on the porch to take the phone call. Oh, I hear Emily waking up. I'm going to get off the phone. It was just like, I can't even tell you like how annoyed I was at this book that promised answers and didn't. And then after that, we have to suffer through even more scenes with her and the other girls eating, like, because they took this cooking class. They're like, oh, I'm going to get all the girls over here to eat. Okay, we get it. You guys like cooking together. It's so incredibly boring. I can't read any more cooking scenes. So I don't know. I'm actually not even sure after reading this book if I will continue the series, even though I gave the first 2 books a 5. Because I found that so annoying. So anyways, that was that. The last book is a cozy mystery, and that is Limoncello Yellow. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but it's by Traci Andrighetti. It is number 1 in the Frankie Amato mysteries, and I gave this book a 5. And in fair disclosure, I am friends with Traci, so I did love this book though. Like, I'm not even lying. It was super cute. It was funny. It's basically about a cop in Austin, Texas, and she decides like she's sick of being a cop. She's going to go move to New Orleans with her friend who has a detective agency and help her solve crimes. And so she gets like some little like jobs to do as well as like a big murder mystery to solve. And I thought it was really funny. If you like New Orleans, which I actually do not like New Orleans, that was like the only part of the book that I didn't like. It goes into voodoo and like New Orleans kind of things. And I've been to New Orleans like 20, 30 gazillion times. There's always like a work conference, a writing conference. My best friend lived there for like years. So I'm like all New Orleans out. I don't know. People like love New Orleans. I'm just not into it. So anyways, what's my point? The book is great. And if you love New Orleans, that is a positive for you versus for me who doesn't like New Orleans. That was the only thing. Anyways, those were all of the books that I read for the first half of July. And yeah, and I read the book club books, but we talk about those during book club. And the other ones that I read that I didn't really like were in that other video where I said books that were popular that I didn't really go like. So I put those in that video instead of wrapping them up in this one. All right. I hope everyone's having a fabulous month, and the second half of the month is even better. And I will see you guys at the end of the month or the first week of August to talk about the books I read in the second half of July. All right. Bye, everyone.